It's coming straight from my heart. Ooh, yeah. My love. Ooh, my love. Knowing that we'll never part.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Tristan Bears here, the digital storyteller and director and writer of Sugar Dumplin, short film, Sugar Dumplin, that I developed and created with a bunch of my colleagues, my creative colleagues, and I'm super excited that you've decided to join me on this conversation, this journey of conversation with all the creatives that have been a part of making this film possible. I cannot express to you how excited I am to sit down with one of my brothers. I can honestly say he's not my biological brother, but he is a brother from another mother. He is incredibly talented. His name is Kern. He's an author. He's a thought leader. He's a writer, a novelist, motivational speaker. I feel like he is a producer. He's doing so many things. Got to give it up to my man, Kern.
Yo, what's up, man? I'm happy to be here. Glad to be here.
Listen, we are happy to have you here on the official podcast for Sugar Dumplin, the film, the short film. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you first off is, for those of you that don't know, Kern Carter actually, with his amazing colleague, Safia Bartholomew, gave me my first official credit as a director, as a film director, and as a television web series director. And not only that, they've been so supportive in terms of being executive producers on this project and other projects that myself and my wife have been producing and creating. And so I look at him, both he and Safia, with such respect and reverence, because I think they're such awesome talents, writers, but they're good people. And so I start out there at that at that perspective, but I want you to share a little bit about your journey as a creative artist, as a writer, and now as a producer, but also not just a producer from the standpoint of supporting, but also a producer as producing your own projects as well. And so just so that people get context of all that you're doing.
Yeah, no, I always start off in saying that I'm really fortunate because I wrote my first novel when I was 8, and I knew from then, like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then where I give myself credit is that I stuck to it. Like, I never felt too far off track. Even when I was a really good basketball player growing up, I got into the college level. Even with that, I was still like, I know I'm going to be an author. So my journey has been that, just like on the straight and narrow, just really finding ways to first get my novels out, get my books out. Started writing in university, like earnestly in university. Self-published my first 2 books. Then said, "All right, enough with self-publishing. I wanna get into the big leagues," and got my first book published in 2020. And then from there, it's been on. I have like multiple publishing deals now. I'm happy to be writing for some of the most like acclaimed publishers in the world. Like I just put out my book with Scholastic. Before that, I put out my book with Penguin. I'm just like, I'm fortunate and extremely fortunate for all these things to happen. And for me, like, I think I love writing novels. I love writing books, but I just think storytelling in general is the most important thing in the world. Like I really believe that it's how people see themselves. It's how people enter into new worlds. It's how people define their lives. Like the story that you tell yourself is really the story of your life, and how you get to that point of telling yourself those stories is by what you consume and what your environment is and what that story tells. So, and we're, as storytellers, we're part of that. Like, we get to write these stories that people consume and then see themselves in, or see new worlds in. So I think storytelling is the most important thing in the world. So I feel really, really privileged about that. And when I set out on the script writing stuff, I have to say it happened by accident. Like Safia, you mentioned Safia. Safia came to me with an idea. She said, I have a story about 3 girls that I want to tell, 3 friends. That's how it started off, like 3 friends.
Dope.
And I'm like, okay, like, and she had it like in this notebook, and she was like showing me the notebook. She's like, here's my idea. I'm like, oh, that's kind of dope. I like that, because there are 3 young friends. It's like, I like that. It was just very subtle. It was very, if you know Saf, it's very Safia,
Yes.
like very chill. So I was like, and I feel like one of my gifts is that I'm able to kind of pull story. Like I could look at something and be like, okay, here's where the story is. I think that's one of the things I do well. So I told her, I was being honest with her, because Saf and I do have an honest relationship. I was like, that I really think this story has some potential. So she went and she worked on that thing. Like she worked on that thing. You know, she went back and forth and back and forth. I had been, before Saf showed me that, I've been messing around with script writing a little bit before. So I was already thinking about, like, I already had, since I already had my publishing deals, I was like, all right, like, let me start thinking about getting into script writing, because I want to start being able to transcribe some of my books, adapt them into film. So I'd already started taking some classes. I already went to LA a couple times. I made some connections. So I had just connected her with, when she told me she had the script, I connected her with the script writer from LA, who's also a producer, also director, and he just became her mentor. They had like 3 hour conversations on a bi-weekly basis, and like really just helped her sharpen the script. And Saf was all for it. She really put in the work. So when it came time um for like everything to be finalized, like, even though it was her first script and ours first script together, you know, like literally, like pretty much, other than the practice scripts I was doing, like this was really our first script. We felt very much prepared, and we didn't feel like, oh, this is, we're taking a shot in the dark here. We felt confident in the story, and you know, we were fortunate to get a grant, and we are able to kind of figure everything else around that. And it didn't go perfectly, obviously, but again, I think we told a really strong story, and that just kind of launched our whole journey into production and script writing, and understanding the industry a little bit better.
That's dope. No, I love that, and I think, you know, I came aboard, you know, later on in the process, once the script was kind of in hand, and obviously you're still tinkering with a few things. But one of the things I really love about the cadence that both you and Safia have is that, you know, Safia has a background in ghostwriting and writing in different people's voices, right? Which is really cool for characters, right? You know, being able to write in a different character, a different character's voice or POV. And then because you have sort of the structured novelist approach, like it's like breaking story is something that you're really good at. Like even when you've read some of my scripts, it's like, that doesn't make sense. Why would they say that when they said this back here? And it's like, and there's all these things that like just work really well, that meld really well together with both of you guys working together. And I think one of the things I was most excited about, especially when I came into Wallflower, the project of Wallflower, was to see Black creatives creating things that Black people need to see, right, and need to experience, right? That's super important. You know, can you tell us a little bit about like your POV, or the importance of why you guys decided to tell the Wallflower story in the way that you did?
Because kind of what you said, like, we, not even kind of, exactly what you said, we need to tell like all angles of Black stories and all sides of Black stories. You know, it's not, we are so nuanced and so dynamic, and just like, so have so much different stories and energies about us. And I think we sometimes get a little bit bogged down in telling this one story, or these very specific stories that are really steeped in trauma. And which is cool, because that is part of us. That's like a part of who we are. That's a part of our existence. But I think it's unfair to only tell that story and focus on that story, when there's so much more story to tell. Like, not all of us come from poverty. Not all of us come from deal with that level of trauma. Like, not all of us are going through these all the stories that you see that they're on TV right now.
Yes.
We're not all living that. So I
Yeah.
think for us, when we came into Wallflower, it was very much just, here's an experience that we can connect with, and I think that a lot of other people in general can connect with. But I think Safia very specifically too was thinking about young Black girls watching this and being like, okay, that is like my life, that little normal thing, like trying to be an artist and really fighting against my mom because my mom thinks this, and but like regular, almost mundane things. You know what I'm trying to say? Just like
Yeah.
stuff that seemingly is a little bit downplayed. Like, but that's life. That's we want to tell the story of that, like
Yeah.
that everyday life story. And I think making sure that we told it in a first of all, from the perspective of a young women, that was important. From the perspective of young shy women, that was important. And then also just gathering a team that would understand the perspectives without explanation, which is, I mean, that's really when you came on board, that's what we were looking for. We were happy about that. And to be completely honest, Saf knew right away. I was like, we need to chill. We need to, like, you're the
Yes.
first person that we entered. I'm like, yo, we're gonna just jump on board. We just be one person. Saf came on the call. She's like, yeah, we should just go with him. I'm like, let's just get a couple more people.
And just low key, but for those that don't know, like we have a creative collective, and so this is how we talk, right? And so Kern is very much the one that's like very pragmatic, very like, hey, listen, cool, but I'm not just gonna go with my gut. I need to have some stats and data, and they need to have something firm to stand on, right? I feel like Saf is really the heart, right? You know what I mean? Natanya is a heart again, because the females in the group are very emotional and very like, this is feels good, right? I myself and Corey, we're more, we're disturbers. We
Yes,
like
definitely.
disrupting the peace.
Yes, exactly. But that's what it was. But after we interviewed a few more people or connected or had conversations, whatever, like, I don't even remember how many people we spoke to at this point, to be honest. But it just felt right, and we always came back to you. So it's like, all right, like,
Mhm.
why are we even bothering? We already know it's going to be him. Let's just jump on board. But I'm telling that story because the importance of that is we wanted someone, again, who, male or female, right? Like,
Mhm.
that actually part wasn't important to us, and especially wasn't important to Saf, which was
Mhm.
wild to me. Like, she didn't care. She's like, I don't care if it's a guy, I don't care if it's a girl. I want someone who understands the
Yeah.
characters and understands the story and could portray the story in the best way. So once we figured that out and we saw that you had that energy, we're just like, let's go. And that was important because, again, like, when I know this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but like, that really paid off, like, being on set. That
Mhm.
really paid off, like, with the friendship we were able
Yeah.
to build afterwards. That stuff paid off in the end, to where it wasn't like, oh, we just shot this movie and then there was nothing else after
Yeah.
that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were able to really bond, connect, and
Yeah.
then that energy and that kind of synergy and family bonding,
Mhm.
really, what you could feel that in Wallflower. You could feel
Mhm.
all of that. So to me, like, that wouldn't have been that wouldn't have happened in the same way if we weren't very intentional about surrounding ourselves with people who understood the community.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about when you're creating a film, a piece of art, a book, anything like that. You're essentially creating a child, and who do you want to create your child with, right? Like who do you really trust with the most precious thing at the moment that you have, right? You have this little idea, right? I think you were the one that told me that when you write your first draft, because you heard it from somebody else, you write your first draft, and really all it is, it's first draft is supposed to be terrible, right? That's first of all. But there's no good writing, there's good editing. That's something that and good notes and good feedback. That's what writing really is. But even with that, Kern, I think the thing that I gleaned from you was when you said, the person said, in that first draft, if there's just a hint, a glimmer of light, a glimmer of like something there, that like, okay, somebody says, okay, that's a little spark, that's something, then that's all you need to now build
Yeah.
out what you have. And oftentimes we get so stuck on, like, we're in a perfectionistic society where it's like everything has to be perfect the first time, when in reality that's never how it works, right? And so even I learned so much from you guys in like the fact that we were making a baby. Like, we started out as, like, saying that we were making a web series, we ended up with a feature film. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Like,
God. Yes.
right? And so there's so much to be said about having agility, being flexible, understanding and trusting each other, right? Because again, we all had parts to play in making Wallflower work. And in that, what are some of the things you learned? Because again, Sugar Dumpling is an independent film, right? Independent project. Wallflower was an independent project. What would you say to those that say, "Oh, well, you're in Canada, you get money, da 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 da." I mean, you don't need to do independent projects. Just work the process. What would you say to people about your experience with the process from your POV?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I really understood how difficult it was to make a film until we actually did it. You know, I was coming in a little bit naive to how it was. You know, and I think anyone who would say who would in any way diminish the actual the difficulty in putting a film together is just someone who has never done it before. There's no part of it that's easy, from the writing to the
Yeah.
bringing the team together to the actual production of it to the post production of it to the marketing and promotion of it to keeping the unity on set of it. There's zero part of making a film that's actually easy. So from my experience for us, I again I felt very fortunate because I did, even though I was a little naive to what it took to make a film. I've heard plenty of horror stories about what sets could be like, what the people could be like, what the actors could be like, what directors could be like, producers, etc. And again, and a lot of this credit goes to you. Like, we had the most joyous set, like the most just like positive vibes,
It was a vibe,
positive
man.
energy. People
Yeah.
were really just like really in sync. You know what I'm trying to say? You letting us like listen into some of the scenes, right, and jump in and put our headphones on and look at some of the scenes. Like, stuff like that would never happen if this was any kind of different situation. So again, like, the process is complicated no matter what. You know what I'm saying? And I don't see it. I mean, you making Sugar Dumpling, I'm sure you went through some situations. You know, like, I know some of the difficulties, are not all, but I know some of the challenges, let's just call them, that you had to go through, right? And some of
Yeah.
the last minute changes, and then some of the, some of the struggles. But when I've seen what I've seen of Sugar Dumpling so far, is like, look what came out of that. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, look at how beautiful that is, and then also look at the response. Look at how people are so into it, and are championing it and supporting it, from here all the way back to Jamaica, right? Like,
Yeah.
really, really supporting it and getting behind it. But that's because that that is literally, I think you made the right analogy in saying that it came from, it's like making a child, because children come from love, like, and it comes, but it comes from labor also. So
Yeah.
there's also pain. So do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
analogy is actually really on point, because that's really what I think it takes to make a film. It takes a lot of love, and it takes a lot of pain, and the endurance, like what you're able to endure between those 2 points, is really what makes a film great or makes a film not great. That's how I see it.
Yeah, this is. I mean, what do some people say about the film industry? They say this is an industry of attrition, right? Like, it's like it's like if you don't have stamina, you're not gonna make it in this industry. If you don't have tough skin, a level of resilience, like the amount of meetings, the amount of people that look you in the face and be like, "Yeah, we're not interested. No, we're not give you the money. No, it's not a good idea."
Or
Everybody.
say yes and then don't do it. Or say yes and then you don't get nothing. They're like ghosts for months.
You know what I mean? And you still got to push it. You still have, like, I remember saying to Tanya the other night, I said, like, listen, I love you. You're my wife. You're my partner. But this is my vision, right? So even if you don't do it, if any of our executive producers don't do anything to push the project, I got to push the project. I gotta apply and submit to film festivals. I gotta send out emails to people, to distributors and all that other stuff. Because at the end of the day, this is the vision that I've been given, that God gave me. Now, I appreciate all the support. I appreciate the ecosystem, because really you're not going to be successful without building a strong team. And that's something that I also learned from the Cry Creative team and our creative collective, is like, your network is so important, because you're not going to have all those resources. And when we talk about resources, please understand, it's not just monetary resources, although that is very valuable. But it's like, I know a person, here's a free thing, here's a couple hours here, I can do this plug, I can say this thing, I can post this thing. You will not even understand how valuable it is to have just people who are of influence post your thing and say, this is a thing that I endorse. Endorsements, you know what I mean? Like, all those sort of things are really, really important. And so I think the question I wanted to ask you was, like, because I'll tell you the truth. I'm gonna spill the beans to everybody that's listening. I was super, super scared to send you the script when I said, because
Really?
yes, when I wrote that script, again, my brother's a writer. My other brother is in the film industry. You know, I have people around me that I trust, but like I just look at you and what you and Safia do, and you guys do it with so much artistry and intentionality and so much vigor and purpose and passion. Like I was so terrified that you were going to be like, this sucks. And I don't know why that mattered to me so much, but I was just like, I have to share it with them. They gotta, I have to, because these guys will tell me the truth. And and that's a testament to like the community that we've built, where it's like, yo, if something doesn't work or we see something different, we're able to create the environment, or we've created an environment where we can give each other feedback, and it's not disrespect, it's love. And it's just like, yo, we want this to be the best possible. And so saying all that, like, what was your thought process, you know, when you're reading the script, and why did you feel like you know what, I want to be a part of this project, even from an executive producing standpoint?
Well, I remember when I first received the script, and I read through first. So I read through as a fan first. Like that's my first thing. I'm like, oh, let me just read it, see if I just genuinely like it. I'm not worried about mistakes or anything like that. And I think on first read, to me, it felt like one of just like the most heartfelt stories that I've read, even though it's short, even though it's a short film. I was just like, wow, like the family love, the difficult circumstance, like everything to me was just like that father daughter relationship, like all of it just hit me, and it hit me hard, you know. And I saw, especially with the father, there was something about the father, just like, you know, going through what he's going through, and times of having like forgetting a little bit, and he's you know, he's going through his condition. And I was just like, wow, like I was most impressed with the fact that you were able to come up with a story like that. You know what I'm saying? With all those different parts. That for me was just like it. So once I went back and then started making some edits, it was just like, all right, let's like make the story beautiful now. You know, like let's try to get to as close as perfect as possible that we could get. That's all that was on my mind. So I was my first impression was being impressed. I was like immensely impressed. I couldn't believe that you were able to really conceive of that story, and I loved it, like instantly loved it, you know. And I remember telling Saf that too. I was like, wow, I think out of all, because you guys told us some story stuff ideas before, but I'm like, out of all the ideas Tristan sent us, I'm like, this is the one. Like, I don't know what he's gonna end up doing with this one, but I'm like, this is the one that he should be giving his attention to. Like, literally, I told her that, I'm like, this is the one he should be, because you had it. I don't remember what the other one was called, but you sent it to me around the same time, and I'm like, nah, this one right here, this is the one that's gonna go. So to see it actually come to fruition, and see where you are now with this is like, and from one perspective, I'm like totally surprised, but from the other perspective, I'm not at all. I'm like, this is the story. All you had to do was execute, and you brother executed. you executed. You know, you executed your butt off. So that was great. It was great.
Yeah, no, I think what really brought a level of security, because again, this was really my first outing in terms of like totally writing a screenplay myself. And I will say this, like, you know, I remember starting the process and just having sort of the idea of the log line, and then being in a writer's, essentially like a writer's boot camp for 12 weeks with Sundance, right, last summer. And honestly, Kern, I was like, that was the best experience of my life, like, because it was like every week I had to read everybody else's scripts, or the scripts that were due that week. Or first it was like the log lines, we had to give feedback on that. Then it was the outlines. We all had to do outlines, and we had to read all of our outlines and give notes to that and have questions. Then it was like the first drafting of scripts. And so there were so many, like, it was one of the best experiences where I really understood the importance of the structural pattern of writing, where it's like you start from this sort of idea, and then, you know, you have your log line, why the log line is super important, then why you have your outline and why that's extremely important, and how you can tell the difference between people who write outlines and people who don't write outlines because there's no structure and there's no narrative flow, and there's no.
Got me into outlines. I can't lie to you, brother. So now our outlines are detailed as like what?
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No,
but outlines,
it was great. Yeah. No, talk about outlines for a minute, because I think people need to understand the importance of, because I think here's the thing. I don't want to deter budding and emerging and passionate writers that want to write screenplays or novels or books or whatever else. But I oftentimes see, specifically within our community, where there's a fervor to create the thing, but not a fervor to master the practice of the thing, so that the thing that you make actually is great.
That right there is that is my mission. If I was a missionary, that would be my mission, is to get people to understand the importance of studying your craft and mastering your craft. It is, I don't know when this whole shift happened to where mastery is not a thing anymore, where it's not important to be great at what you do, where it's not important to even try to chase being great, where just like mediocre is good enough. That is not the truth. That is not real. Forget the exceptions. People are always going to point to one or two exceptions, be like, oh, this, blah, 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 blah. In the book world, they'll be like, oh, 50 Shades of Grey is not written well. That is one exception out of the millions of books that are written well and do well. And especially artistic endeavors, you really need to take time to study the craft and study it deeply. Like, don't be afraid to jump into 12-week classes. Don't be afraid. Back when I took that 6-month production class, with my novels, I put myself through, just in 2019. That's 5 years ago. I already had 2 self-published books out. I put myself through a full novel writing course, 8 months, right? Like, it doesn't matter. That novel writing course was the reason I became published, because I understood finally how to tell the stories I needed to tell. I didn't have the capability before. Think about that. I had written 2 books, and I was able to humble myself and say, I don't have the capability to write the stories I really want to write. Let me go do this course, right? Like, if you're not really, really searching and trying to master what you're doing, I'm going to question if you actually love this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to question if you love this. You might be in this for different reasons, you know?
Yeah.
And if you're in a creative endeavor, in a creative industry, and money is that's your only reason, then I don't even want to deal with you. Like, we're not talking about the same thing. We're not operating on the same level. So, like, you should go be in finance, or maybe just be a producer by itself and don't do anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, just be the producer and leave the creative stuff alone, because that is, if you're not willing to take the time to master it, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. You really are, you know, and especially as Black people, and people in general, but especially black people who we started off this conversation talking about stories. We have so many stories to tell, and we have the opportunities for us aren't the same. So when you jump into the game, we need home runs. We need
every
home
time
runs.
We can't get singles. We cannot get singles. And we definitely can't strike out, because we ain't seeing the field again. And this is the thing that people don't understand is yes, it's unfair. We can't just come out with whatever films we want to come out and tell whatever stories. We have a mandate, because I was saying this to somebody earlier, we are in the infancy stage of the Black film renaissance industry, all that sort of stuff. Let's just be honest. Like, MGM, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Lionsgate, all of these big, Disney, they're all over 100 years old, or close to 100. Why? Because a community of people said, we want to redefine what entertainment is. We see a bigger vision, and they sacrificed their selves, their lives, maybe commitments to other things in their lives, to build the foundation that their kids and their grandkids could now benefit from. Now this conglomerate and these conglomerates, and I think that we are at that place now as Black creatives to understand that. Listen, this is not the time. We can't just make a aw shucks type of movie. We don't have the capacity, bandwidth, or opportunities right now to do that. We need to be so finely tuned and focused and execute at such a high level. And then we also now need to understand, so that's the entertainment part, that's the film part. We now need to understand the industry part. What's the industry part? The industry part is what actually allows the entertainment part and the film part to exist. You don't have entertainment without industry. Industry, right? Film industry. And so that's where, when you understand your craft, when you understand distribution, when you understand licensing, that's when things come together, and now you can create sustainability within our community, specifically telling our stories. But for far too long, we've sold our stories, right, and then let other people tell our stories, right? Now, like you were saying, Kern, and I'll finish off with this point, for this particular thought. Even with, we talk about Issa Rae all the time. Oh man, Issa Rae got the bag, and then she did HBO, and she did Insecure, and blah 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 blah. And the Issa Rae example is like one of one. How many people are going to, first of all, build their audience like she did, then get a $60 million bag to basically star in the same show that you were on in YouTube, but now put on by a network, basically the best people that know how to make television, HBO. Then be able to be a producer, get to direct, get to be a showrunner at a certain point, be in the writer's room. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And so
it's the exception. It's the exception, like you were saying before.
Exactly. And so everybody thinks that that's how it is. It's not. That's not how it is, right? And then the one other thing I will say, and then I'll let you ride on this thought too, is like earlier this year, I remember getting into a writer's program, which I wanted to get into for the last couple of years, and I was very close to going into the writer's program, and I actually decided, Kern, to step back from it and to actually recuse myself from it and give my space to somebody else who wanted it. And it wasn't because I didn't want to write, but I said to myself, Tristan, if you had a choice between writing and directing, what would you want to do? And I said, well, I want to direct. Well, why am I not trying to become the best director possible? I can't be the best director possible and best writer possible at the same time, right? And on top of that, I'm good friends with one of the best writers in Canada, if not in North America, Kern Carter, Safia Bartholomew, right? I got my network. Like, this is the problem with a lot of us in black spaces and black creatives. We think we have to be everything, and we don't. Yeah. We actually are better when we build out an ecosystem of people and members that can do different things at a higher level than we can, and then we can focus on what we can execute at a high level.
I love that. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about Clive Davis in music. Mm-hmm. And his legend, right? Like, and he's done amazing things. He's done some not so great things, but I'm going to stick to the amazing things just for the sake of this conversation. Mm-hmm. But I think about the way that Clive Davis was able to, for decades, build up labels and identify talent and be very specific with the way that talent is managed and how they put out music. He was so specific that he with Whitney Houston, he discovered Whitney Houston, by the way. With Whitney Houston, when she did I think it's I Will Always Love You, that cover song, that was Dolly Parton's song, right? I think it's I Will Always Love You. Whatever that's the one. That there was another song that she got that was a cover, but he's like, you know what? I'm gonna pull this song back, put it on some B-side over here, only release it in like Japan or something like that, because I don't want people to think that Whitney Houston is only a cover artist. I need to make sure that, yes, we have this one big cover song, but I need people to see that she's an artist. She could also perform, right? And that seems like such a little deal, but I'm talking about the fact that he was so into the details and he understood what his position was. He's like, I need to create the structure and the environment to present this artist in the way that she's going to be the most accepted and the most popular, and it's going to benefit her the most. You made a point earlier, and we were kind of joking about it, like, oh, like, if you're not a creative, be a producer, which I was being a touch tongue in cheek. But what I think that collectively is missing right now is people who are willing to actually do the work of building infrastructure, because it's not easy work. It's not easy to build up a music label and have so many people become hit stars, right? Become stars, right? It's not easy to build up a publishing company like Penguin that's been around for 100+ years, right? And have literally, they have their own classics. They have a whole canon of classics just from this one publisher. It's not easy to build up MGM, Disney, right? Those people had vision, patience, sacrificed their personal lives. They did all that. We need people. Being creative is great, right? Like, this is where we're at. We're doing it. But to your point, which is what I loved you said, is like we also need to think about like how are we going to get to the industry side and create the infrastructure
Yeah.
on a grand scale, on a grand scale, like not an indie scale, on a Disney scale that would allow the rest of my family, your family, our grandkids, our the collective that we have, that group, and everybody to be able to flourish in the
Hmm.
way that we want them to flourish. Because that's what this that you already outlined it. That's what
Yeah.
those people did. They sacrificed that and they sucked it up. And those
Hmm.
people, and they were Clive Davis is still working now. These people worked into their 70s,
Hmm.
80s.
Hmm.
Like this is not
It's their
simple
passion.
work.
It's their
That's their
passion. Is the passion.
passion,
Yep.
right? So like
Yeah.
we need to to your point be have enough have less of our ego to say I'm gonna write, I'm gonna direct it, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna produce it, blah blah. Great, like sometimes you need to do that to get it off the ground. But how
Yeah.
can you build a team to like
Yes.
create the infrastructure again so that this is sustainable
Yeah.
and not just sustainable, but this is something that could actually take off into something else, especially nowadays because
Hmm.
if you are solely like if your only dependency is on a network, that you're playing a very dangerous game. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm fairly new to this, but I think you're playing a very dangerous game. I think you have to in some way be able to create something, produce something, and then go and find a way to distribute that thing on your
Hmm.
own and get
Hmm.
eyeballs on it through building your own community. I think that's it. And then if a network sees that or somebody sees that and says, "All right, look what Tristan did over here. Like, actually, let's pull that. And we could give it a bigger audience, right?
Hmm.
And that could perhaps take it off. But if you're not doing that groundwork on your own with your own team first, and you're solely being like, my goal is to get this on Netflix, get this on this, get this on that. I think that's a dangerous game. I think that's actually like old thinking. I don't
Yeah.
even think that's the game anymore. I think you have to be very careful with that. So
Listen,
uh,
I was watching a video the other day. I think I sent it to you. It was with oh my gosh, that rapper that turned podcast.
Joe Budden.
Yeah, Joe Budden, and he
Uh,
was talking to the other executive, music executive that went to. He wrote the book The Tanning of America, and then he went to
Steve Stout.
yeah, there you go, yeah, as Tim or Steve Stout, yeah, and so whatever, they're at a conference and Joe goes, listen, I don't understand what people are talking about trying to get a bag because what I'm trying to go for won't fit in the bag. It won't fit in the bag. He said, what I'm going for, what I'm looking for is not going to fit in a bag. He said, oftentimes what happens is we get into rooms out of desperation, out of the economy, all that other stuff, and people present us with a check or with a bag or with whatever else because they've already done their calculations. They've studied us, studied our audiences, studied the potential revenue that they can get off of us, and they're presenting what they can afford to give us rather than and we haven't even done the work of knowing our own value. And so
Ooh.
we get to a place where we're so desperate that we're willing to sell the farm and sell, for instance, it would be like for you to sell your IP rights to your books, and not be able to monetize, toys off of it or
Yeah.
educational things off of it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like movie
Even
rights.
my movie rights.
Yeah.
Even my movie rights, which
Yeah.
they tried to keep at first, which I was like, no chance.
There's no
Zero
way. There's
chance.
no way. No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these are all things that we don't even understand because we're so enamored with the check and also just getting it, just making it. And this is where again independent filmmaking is important. And it's not easy. You know what I mean? It's super hard. Like listen, I still remember conversations that we had when we were trying to finish up Wallflower. You know what I mean? And we're grinding and we're like, yo, listen, we got no money, man. Like we're trying to find money under a rock. We're looking down. Everybody's trying to look in our eyes. We're looking down, see if we got a toonie, loony, or, $5 on the ground. Because it was just real. And it's the same thing with Wallflower or with Sugar Dumplin. It's like, listen, man, like make no mistakes about it. This was a sacrifice. This was like all of our savings, right? Why? Because we believe in the story and we believe in the power of independent filmmaking. We believe in the power of owning your own IP, owning your story as a culture, as a community, right? Like
And can I pause you right there
Yeah.
first because I also just I just really want to give you credit because from the first time we met and the first time we started like working together and then becoming friends, you've always been very staunch on, if we are going to ever sell, sure, that is an option. We can do that. But your first option has always been, let's try to figure this thing out by ourselves and build this thing. You said that from the jump, brother, from the jump. So you have been very protective of IP, which you should be, you know. But I didn't always like see eye to eye with that.
Yeah.
But you've always been like that, and I have to give you credit because it's the reality of things. Like that's how it should be, and then now, like you back that up and went and put your money where your mouth is, and you did this thing out of pocket. You and your wife did this thing out of pocket. So you're not just talking to talk, right? You're like actually walking what you're saying, and so to see you be like have this you have this belief of how things should go, and then actually follow through with that, and not just be protective, but then also be visionary and be brave at the same time, you know, and sacrifice. You have 2 kids. This is a huge sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? Like I would like to go through savings when you have kids. Like this is, I really want people to understand what kind of sacrifice that is, you know. And you've been this way since I met you years ago. So I just want to give you your flowers and your credit for that, because you're backing up everything that you said. Is nothing you said has been fake. You are who you are, and you're putting like your money where your mouth is. And again, that I don't want people to get it confused. If someone comes along and makes the right offer, I know, like, yes, you will entertain. And I'm not saying that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I'm not mistaken, but sorry, just you could.
No. And I think this is a healthy conversation, because I think again there's something that I learned from one of my colleagues. And he said, Brandon Washington from YouTube, he said, listen, there's, Tristan, in life, there's real deals and there's meal deals. There's things that are going to be great for your real, you're going to be passionate about, but you're not probably going to get paid well for it. But it's a really great opportunity that's going to give you another opportunity. And then there's meal deals. They're going to pay you a big bag, give you a lot of money, and it's going to be work you have no passion about, right? Maybe you don't really care about. And so I think as artists, we have to be realistic with that, right? Again, we're in the film industry, the entertainment industry. So sometimes it's entertainment, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's film, other times it's industry. And the industry part of it is going to allow you to pay your bills and to be happy and to have, pay your mortgage and to do the things that you really want to do. But I think, oftentimes we have this lofty idea that everything I have to be 100,000% passionate about it. No, you don't have to be 100,000% passionate.
Yo, you know what the best story I heard about that was George Clooney. He went on a streak after they're making all these, $100 million movies and whatever. He went on a streak where he's making like The Descendants and movies that were doing okay, but you're like, this is George Clooney. How come it's not taking off? So I watched an interview with him, and he's like, listen. He's like, I make no qualms about the fact that I will go to China and Japan and take $2 million to shoot a commercial and then come back to America and do the type of movies that I really want to do. This is George freaking Clooney. This is one of the biggest stars of our time. And he is saying, meal, real. Like he just like, meal, real. Like, and he said that on an interview, bro. Like, he wasn't hiding it, and that's George Clooney. So if he is saying that I will just go take money about these stupid ass commercials that I don't even care about, so I could come back here and shoot The Descendants because that's a movie I really want to shoot, I'm going to do that because I don't want to be don't want this passion over here to be solely connected to the outcome of monetary outcome.
That's so good. Yeah, no, that's so good, and that's so powerful, because I think, again, the thing I want people to realize is, like, this is, like, whether we're talking about Wallflower, whether we're talking about A Letter from the Fathers, whether we're talking about Sugar Dumplin and some of the other projects that we're coming up with and we're developing as a conglomerate creative collective, I want people to understand that we're doing this on purpose and in our purpose. Like everything has a reason, has a purpose, has a place with it. Every story that we tell, and I think that is something that many people, especially from, not especially from the West Indies, but many people in this generation, they don't really know, because we get fed so much content and it's so noisy in this entertainment environment and in social media that oftentimes it's hard to discern quality over quantity. And sometimes people think quantity equates to quality, and that's not necessarily the same thing, right? Or even
Mhm.
intentionality equates to you know
Oh, to
you know
quality.
yeah, quality.
That is the one. People think
Mm,
because you have good intentions that it's going to come out into quality. Like you have to execute. That's again. That's why I gave you praise for executing. Like yeah,
mm-hmm,
the script was good. The story idea was
mm-hmm.
really good. But if you did not go ahead and go get Oliver and go get and
Yeah,
go, you know what I'm saying? Go put that crew together, that acting crew together, and then put the money up. And if you did not execute at a high level, go
mm-hmm.
take those photos. Those photos are amazing. I posted those photos on my social. I seen how people reacted to that. Those photos were right. Like if you
Yeah,
didn't take the
yeah,
time to do that, then who cares? It would just be another. It would have been something that just passed by and nobody even paid attention to.
yeah.
So like the execution of it at a quality level
Mm-hmm.
is so important, which goes back to our earlier conversation about mastering your craft and really taking the time to
Yeah,
get good at what you do.
and being and understanding that I remember I did a pro we did a Natanya, myself, and Safia did a workshop, like an intensive, a 1 month intensive for like business affairs for the Canadian film industry, and the first session was about marketing. Why? Because they're like, everything is marketing.
Yeah.
Everything is how people perceive your story, your brand, your production company, what you're building. And if you don't understand that, and you don't understand the market, and you don't understand how to market to that specific audience, it's done. It's like, you know what I mean, like, you know what I mean. But lastly, I want to close off with this two final thoughts. Number one was, what was your reaction when you stepped on set? You were also you and Safia were our script supervisors for a couple of days on set. But what did it feel like to walk onto the set of Sugar Dumpling and to actually see and meet the legend, the myth, the man, Oliver Samuels? What was that like for you? I know you're Trini. I know you're doing a
We
plants and
watched him in
stuff.
Trinidad too. We watched him in
Yeah.
Trinidad. I know who he was. I know who he was. It was actually kind of weird. I'll be honest with you because I was born in Trinidad, so I saw him like really young. You know what I mean? Like extremely
Yeah.
young. So to it was very nostalgic for me in a weird type of way, and then also to for him being for the time that I engaged with him, he was so kind. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Just like very down to earth, kind, joyful soul type of person. Like I didn't feel any kind of negativity coming from him or bad vibes. Like he was, it was really like when I went to shake his hand, he stood up, he said hello, sir, and blah, like talk to me like a real person, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
Even though I was like a fan. So it was that from that perspective, I felt great. But then, kind of like what I was telling you, man. Like I was very, I felt very like privileged to be part of that. You know, to see that,
Mm-hmm.
to feel the energy on the set, to see you actually executing on a plan and on a mission that you had. Like maybe I think I probably read the script a year
Mm-hmm.
before the thing actually came out, or we were on set. To see all of that happen and all of that to be happening in real time was just like the most joyful kind of experience for me, man. And just I felt really happy for you. I felt really proud of what you and Natanya did. And I just knew I knew it was going to be special. I knew it was going to be special
Mm-hmm.
since I read the script. I'll be honest with you, I did. Like I,
Mm-hmm.
I I felt that since I read the script. So to be on set was just for me just magical.
Mm-hmm. No, that's dope. That's dope. And final question as we wrap up. What are your thoughts about next projects that you're working on? What are some of the exciting things that have happened? I know that you are, some people just try to be normal authors and novelists and come out with one book in 1 year, but you had to do two, one for spring, one for fall. Okay. And with two different publishers, I think, right? I'm like, this guy's just hustling. But tell us a little bit about those projects, and then also tell us, where we can find you on social, how we can support, and if there's any other exciting projects that we can really come alongside the journey with Kern Carter.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Definitely, my two novels are still going. It's still fresh for me. So, and then there was us is a story that like that story is a story. I know it's fiction, but it's a story that I feel so proud of writing, because I was able to kind of pull from the relationship and some circumstances from my daughter and myself and our life, and put that into this fantastical story with some magical realism in it and dream worlds and all that. And I think I'm really, really proud of that book. So, I mean, and then there was Us as the book. If you want to go cop it, go read it. That's the one. And then if you have children, I wrote my first middle grade book with Is There a Boy Like Me, which will probably be the only middle grade book I write. So if you have kids and you have 10 to 14-year-olds, that book is like a mission book for me. Like that book is really to help young boys see themselves, and to block out all the external noise that's happening. So that's what that book is for. Coming up though, I'm always working. I'm always writing. I have some obligations with some contracts that I'm working through right now with book deals. So I have some. There's another one coming out.
That's his way of saying there's some meal deals that he's taking care of right now. They're not real deals. They're meal deals, and we love the meal deals.
Some are coming up, so I'm really excited about that. But just stay connected to me. To me, the most if you want to really understand who I am, besides reading my novels, which you could just go to kerncarter.com. You'll see my books there. Check out my newsletter. Writers Are Superstars is really me taking my two passions which is writing and publishing and pop culture, and just blending them together into this newsletter essentially for writers. And now it's been bustling over this last few months into this beautiful community. We have the best conversations. I swear we have the best literary conversations on the internet. The comments from the people that are reading this newsletter is just incredible. We have really deep conversations, and important conversations about writing, about culture, about reading. We just put out one about reading last week.
I saw that one. Yeah. I read that one.
There's so much. There's so much. We have really great conversations. So to me, that if you want to get a glimpse into my kind of thought process in my mind and what matters to me, Writers Are Superstars is a place to really check out and subscribe to.
Yeah, no, listen, man. I say this all the time, but I'll say it again. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you have done to help my career, and to just be an encouragement, just be a good person, a good brother. There's so many through lines with people that we know, and how we haven't actually met each other, because I grew up not idolizing your older brother, but being he's the dude, because I used to play football, and I remember when he used to play football with my brother, and so there's so many through lines, and I feel so grateful that God kind of connected us together, and now we have the opportunity to really do something special. You know what I mean? And every time I see a new post with you working with youth, or you come out with another project, or you just saying something, creating content and sharing your mind, it always motivates me. It challenges me, it inspires me to be okay, I gotta get back on my grind too. And so I just want to continue to encourage you to just do your thing, Kern. You found sort of your space and your lane, and continue to broaden the strokes of the life that you're creating, because honestly, it's fantastic, it's encouraging, it's inspiring, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on here.
Yes, no, this has been great. For those of you that are listening, thank you so much for listening all the way to the end of the end of this podcast episode with Kern Carter of the official podcast of Sugar Dumplin. We're gonna have some sort of There we go. We got it right there, right? And so for those of you that want to get more information about the project, you can go to sugardumplingfilm.com. That's sugardumplingfilm.com. Or you can check us out on social media. All socials are at sugardumplingthefilm.com or sugardumplingthe.com, because I couldn't get in the L and the M, but just search us up. Or you can Google my name, Tristan Barrocks, Barrocks. That's my last name, and you can get some information about myself and some of the things that myself and my wife do through our production company. Again, thank you so much for watching and listening, and please feel free to share and subscribe and do the things that you need to do so that we can get these sort of messages out into a larger sphere. All right, until the next time, stay creative and stay blessed. Peace.